The change is already happening, gang. We are in the middle of a global shift. Now, I break it all down in my most important book yet, America Awaken. Go to americaawaken.us and get early access now.
Himalaya.
نیاوران الان صدای
Israel launches Operation Rising Lion in a devastating attack on Iran. We're going to take a look at the latest and why this may be playing right into Trump's hands. And then,
Alex Padilla, I have questions for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your hands off.
The Democrats have officially descended into utter madness. We got all the polls that came out this week, and I'm going to show you exactly why. They are all showing, every single one of them, that the days of the Democrat Party are indeed coming to an end. Hey, gang, are you finding that allergies are keeping you up at night, turning your nights into a nightmare? Well, meet Sambrosa Sweet Dreams Night Syrup. This is your ticket to a sleep paradise. This isn't just any syrup. It's a unique blend of pure natural honey, soothing organic herbs, and a touch of doxylamine, a trusted antihistamine that tackles those pesky nighttime symptoms. Whether it's sneezing, congestion, or itchy eyes keeping you up at night, Sambrosa's got you covered. Take it before bed and let its gentle formula help you drift off and stay asleep. This stuff is amazing. Trust me. I mean, it knocks you out and you wake up feeling refreshed, not groggy. And the best part, it starts at just $11.99. No prescriptions, no hassle, just natural relief. Visit the link below and use code Turley for 25% off and finally enjoy the sleep you deserve. Click on that link below right now. I was just giving an assessment that, we've never seen a military operation quite like this before, if the reports are accurate, and they seem to be. We've seen, Jack Posobiec was pointing out that we're seeing a complete decapitation strike. We're seeing targeted assassinations of entire general staff. And we're getting word the Israeli offensive is just beginning. As we speak, there are reports of a second wave of fighter jets headed for Iran, and the IDF has already announced that they are prepared to carry out attacks as long as it takes to bring Iran and its nuclear program to heel. Now, all of that said, even with all of our interruptions, and thanks again for sticking around, gang, but all of that said, the fundamental question that is on everyone's mind: what on earth is America going to do in all of this? Are we going to join this fight? Because I know that's what a lot of people are freaking out over. Are we going to escalate this the way the neocons want us to? Is this already an escalation that no one in the MAGA world wanted? What on earth is really going on here as far as we Americans are concerned? And what I want to make the argument here for you, I want to develop this argument, is that ironically, this is all playing out in a way that fits right into, or plays right into, Trump's hand. All of this, the way it's playing out, is playing out right into Trump's hand. I'm going to just, again, during the Q&A, and if you want, just send in a super chat. If you have a comment or a question, I'll be happy to read it on air here and answer it. Or you can just click on the link below and join our Patriots, our Courageous Patriots Club, where you can ask me all the questions or make all the comments you want. I'll be happy to yeah, there you go, fight.turleytalks.com/join. But look, I'll be honest with you, as I'm scrolling through X, I mean, there are tons of doom posters out there. I don't know. I'll refrain from it. I was going to say, bottom line, I don't know how they live with themselves. I don't know if they're paid off. I don't know what they are. But it just seems to me it is so patently absurd. 98% of the doom comments that I'm reading, they're patently absurd. They're not even within the realm of reality. And so what I want to do here is I just want to give you a big picture of what's happening from the vantage point of MAGA, from the vantage point of America first. Okay? What's happening here? Big picture. Because frankly, I think this is getting blown way out of proportion among a lot of doomers. And I get it, after 30 years of neocon leadership, after 4 years of Biden. I mean, I get it. There is just this natural propensity to doom and to think this is going to be Iraq Part 2.0. That's not what's happening. Those are totally different universes in many respects. That's not what's happening. And all the doomers out there, you just need to turn them off. So hopefully this is what I'm going to be successful in persuading you with this argument. I'm going to argue that this is playing right into Trump and America First hands. First and foremost, we did not have to wait long to see how the White House would respond to this Israeli preemptive strike. As soon as there were reports of explosions, Secretary of State Marco Rubio released this message, quote, "Tonight, Israel took unilateral action against Iran. We are not involved in strikes against Iran, and our top priority is protecting American forces in the region. Israel advised us that they believe this action was necessary for its self-defense. President Trump and the administration has taken all necessary steps to protect our forces and remain in close contact with our regional partners. Let me be clear. Iran should not target U.S. interests or personnel." And that's what we're worried about. We're worried about, in terms of escalation, that Iran, in its retaliation, is going to set its sight on American targets. I'm not so sure, for reasons I'll develop as we go along. So there was nevertheless an immediate distancing, a diplomatic distancing of the United States from these Israeli strikes. And then shortly thereafter, President Trump weighed in. Quote, "I gave Iran chance after chance to make a deal. I told them in the strongest of words to just do it. But no matter how hard they tried, no matter how close they got, they just couldn't get it done. I told them it would be much worse than anything they know, anticipated, or were told, that the United States makes the best and most lethal military equipment anywhere in the world by far, and that Israel has a lot of it, with much more to come, and they know how to use it. Certain Iranian hardliners spoke bravely, but they didn't know what was about to happen. They are all dead now, and it will only get worse. There has already been great death and destruction, but there's still time to make this slaughter, and the next already planned attacks, being even more brutal, come to an end. Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire." Interesting civilizational language there. "No more death, no more destruction. Just do it before it's too late. God bless you all." So first and foremost here, what's absolutely key is that President Trump has clearly, diplomatically, and rhetorically distanced himself, his administration, the United States, from this attack. That is a huge geopolitical signal, right? We're getting reports now, and these reports are being read all over the world. They've been leaked over the week, that Trump did not want this. This was originally reported last night by the Wall Street Journal. President Trump had told Netanyahu on Monday not to attack Iran. He did not sign off on this, and Netanyahu ended up doing it anyway. Now, there are a number of analysts who believe that was all part of the psyop. That was all. It was Trump's peace deal, his nuclear disarmament deal, and his pushing back against Netanyahu over the week were all meant as a psyop to lure Iran into complacency. That's one of the arguments that's being, I believe, Scott Ritter is out there making that argument. I don't know. This is fog of war stuff. I don't know. And frankly, I'm going to say he don't know. We don't know. What we do know is from the vantage point of all of the optics and of all of the objective metrics out there, explicit metrics out there, the United States is distancing itself from what Israel just did. That's the key posturing that appears to be non-negotiable here. This is Israel doing what it thinks it needs to do. The Trump administration is stating unequivocally that this was a unilateral strike by Israel. The United States was not in any way, shape, or form involved. And so this is a sovereign nation in the region preemptively striking another sovereign nation in the region in the name of defending its own national interests. And that's absolutely key. These strikes may be in Israel's national interest, but they're not in ours. Not by any stretch of the imagination. They're not. And what's so fascinating here is that even Democrats are lining up behind Trump on this. And that includes none other than Pocahontas herself. Take a look.
Deeply disturbing. And look, I don't agree often with the Trump administration, but I think here it is important to say we need more negotiation, we need de-escalation, we need to get to a deal. This has the possibility of spinning entirely out of control. So we need to get these parties back to a negotiating table. We need the administration in there helping try to negotiate something among them. This is truly a dangerous situation.
So as you can see, there's clearly no bipartisan appetite for escalation or to even remotely get involved in this, despite what the neocons may be craving, particularly on Fox News. Washington looks rather united in their opposition to getting directly involved in this. Now, that said, let's be real. Let's take a peek behind the scenes. And again, this fully acknowledges the fog of war. But most pundits believe that it was impossible for the IDF to carry out a military operation of the scope and magnitude without at least some U.S. intelligence and reconnaissance. Okay. And we clearly saw last night, if you were watching, all of the chest thumping among the neocons, particularly Sean Hannity, had all the warmongers on. We're talking Mike Pompeo, Mark Levin, Ted Cruz giving their wartime speeches of how we need to destroy Iran and the mullahs. Death to Israel. They chant death to America, and we can't allow. The whole litany of apologists for getting the United States involved directly with this war. And keep in mind, neocons have been doing this now for decades. Netanyahu, Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, they have all been beating the drum about Iran's nuclear weapons program for freaking years. This is a list. This is a list that goes all the way back to 1992, when we were told that we're 3 to 5 years away from a nuclear weapon. 1990, Pat Buchanan has been pushing back against these neocon claims for decades now. And Kurt Mills of the American Conservative magazine, he was just on with Steve Bannon. He had a very, very good point. Again, regardless of where anyone stands on these strikes, I'm trying to be as objective and as descriptive rather than prescriptive on these things. But over the decades, when it came to Iran, whether we like it or not, the goalposts kept getting moved. First, it was no nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon. Iran cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Then it was, well, Iran cannot be allowed to enrich. No enrich, because the moment they enrich, that's it. It's over. Then it was, well, no, what we really need is a regime change. You see, the goalposts just never stop moving. And now neocons out there right now as I speak, I kid you not, they are coming out and saying Turkey is next. We need to take out the Erdogan regime. There you are, AEI, American Enterprise Institute. Turkey is next. These are neocons. It never stops. Neocons are addicted to the vision of Pax Americana, where the American military force can reshape the world in our image, and supposedly guarantee a lasting peace, of course, at the other end of end of the barrel of a gun. And because their scope is the world, it will never end. Trump can never appease neocons. There is all they know is escalation. You cannot appease, by definition, a warmonger, precisely because their goal is worldwide dominance. It doesn't stop with Iraq. It doesn't stop with Syria. It doesn't stop with Iran. It won't stop with Turkey. And all of that just ultimately guarantees triggering at some point World War III. That is true. If we go the way of the neocons, that is what, this is not World War III. What we saw last night, what we're seeing today, what we'll see over the next few weeks, that's not World War III. Stop it. I mean, please. But if we go with the neocons on this, it will trigger World War III, precisely because the neocon vision, this Pax Americana unipolar vision that was imagined back in the early 90s after the fall of the Soviet Union, with the United States being the sole superpower on the planet, that vision is clashing with the world today. It's not the 1990s anymore. Russia and China have emerged as civilization states and major military powers armed to the teeth with nuclear weapons that will defend their hegemon, their geopolitical interests. And keep in mind, it's not a matter of Russia and China will one day team up together and forge an unconditional alliance against the United States. They already have. That day has already come. That was one of the worst blunders of the dithering Biden administration. The massive sanctions they unleashed on Russia, which in this channel we said on day one was an absolute mistake. It was only going to drive them to China. That's exactly what it did. It drove Russia into the arms of China, linked them together into an unconditional alliance. And they brought together with every administration's what in effect the Biden administration did is they ended up bringing together what every administration's geopolitical strategy since Nixon and Kissinger designed to try to always keep asunder Russia and China. And so the good news appears to be, especially with official statements from the State Department, from Trump himself, Trump has no intentions of getting directly involved in this. This is a unilateral Israeli operation, again, at least when it comes to the optics and the official statements and the stage, the world stage. What's going on behind the scenes may be something different, but at least when it comes to world stage, whatever U.S. involvement behind the scenes, it is behind the scenes. It's not front and center the way the neocons want it to be. And that, I would argue, is the secret sauce here. These attacks, ironically, appear to be playing right into Trump's hand. This is what we all need to get here, okay? So just, again, I'm trying to be descriptive, not prescriptive. I don't have a lot of patience for, but should this be happening? Well, I guess, at the end of the day, we could be talking about that. Well, what would Pat Buchanan have done? I mean, at the end of the day, we could be talking about, but there's more to heaven and earth than your philosophy, Horatio. That doesn't really matter much to what is playing out. And that's what I'm trying to analyze and understand. Bottom line, gang, and again, for right or for wrong, bottom line, no way around this. MAGA, The MAGA coalition is generally, actually, frankly, overwhelmingly pro-Israel, as are Republicans in general. They have no love whatsoever for the Iranian regime. None. I mean, again, we all have to remember this. You know, the wounds of 1979 are still very, very deep. 1980 with with the Iranian hostage crisis, where we were embarrassed in front of the entire world. It most likely cost Carter the election. It wasn't just the stagflation. It was just the absolute optics of being the butt of ridicule by this tiny little theocratic, newly formed theocratic regime for 300 plus days. That wound, and then to have them chant death to America over and over again in all their that wound is deep for Americans. So those of you who are outside of America, you do have to understand, again, for right or for wrong, I'm just saying, there's no way around it. That wound is deep. And so if it's Israel versus Iran, if something like that breaks out, we're talking, I mean, Rasmussen polling has found that 84% of Republicans side with Trump taking out Iran's nuclear facility in some way, shape, or form. 84% side with Trump on preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. That's almost unanimous. But, and this is key, I kind of misspoke there. I need to be very precise with the words that I'm using here. 84% side with Trump on his intent on preventing Iran from obtaining the nuclear weapon, but almost an equal amount have no interest at all in any kind of direct military intervention on our part. We do not want Iraq 2.0. That would fracture the MAGA coalition like that. And I'd be the first one. Honestly, I've been saying it. I've been very forthright when I was in Vegas with my opposition to what Trump was saying to Putin, although they look like they have a very, very good relationship. In his press conference yesterday, he was talking about how they do talk regularly, unlike the Biden administration. They do talk regularly, and they have a very, very good relationship. But I mean, he put out a tweet that was just ridiculous, talking about, Putin, you're playing with fire. You better not be doing it. And it's just like, dude, this thing in Ukraine ends when Putin says so. You know that. You even admitted that. Zelensky's got what? No cards. You got no cards. This ends when Putin says it ends. So if NATO is going to escalate this, and that Trump saying, therefore, with Putin's actions is going to cause NATO escalation, so Putin's playing with fire. No, you are. I've been very forthright with that. Were Trump to lead an offensive into Iran with American ground troops and tanks, I'm gone. I'm gone, and I'm sure a lot of you are gone. That is not what we voted for. So he knows this. But he also knows that 80+% do not want Iran to have a nuclear bomb. That's the dilemma that Trump is in. His base is near unanimous in their support in stopping Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, but they do not want, under any circumstances whatsoever, another major American military conflict in the Middle East, period. Enter Operation Rising Lion. Okay, Israel will do it. Operation Rising Lion, for right or for wrong, Operation Rising Lion resolves that dilemma. That's what I mean by playing into President Trump's hands here. The MAGA base wants Iran's nuclear program obliterated, but they don't want the United States to be the one to do it. And that dilemma is precisely what Israel's strike appears to resolve for Trump. So he needs to distance himself from Israel, claiming that this strike was indeed unilateral, while at the same time saying, hey, man, I did everything I could. Secure a deal. to get, I don't even sound like him. Why do I do that? I did everything I could to secure a deal. That's right. You got to kind of you just got to be outside yourself to do it, Trump. I got to do everything to secure a deal to get rid of the nuclear program, but the mullahs didn't want it. I don't like the mullahs. So, and he's saying there's still time. We could still work something out, but time is indeed running out. I want peace. I want the end of death. There were two ways for us to do this, right? We could have hashed out a peace, could have hashed out a deal. You'd make lots of money, no nukes. We'd have to be able to trust you. Obviously, that's a hard one. But nevertheless, we could have worked out a deal. But you rejected it. And so what was the only, Israel wasn't going to allow for. I didn't get involved with that part. My part was the peace deal. Israel's part. I was the carrot. Israel's the stick. So the MAGA base gets what it wants. It gets a nuclear-free Iran with this strike, but at the same time, we don't have to be the ones who did it. So this may turn out to be another massive win for Trump. We'll just have to see how this all plays out. Now, of course, what we're all worried about, and Marco Rubio made it immediately clear, I believe in the second sentence of his statement last night, if Iran strikes American targets in its retaliation, there will, of course, be massive American retaliation, very swift retaliation. But it's a retaliation that, in the end, frankly, isn't going to bother MAGA as a coalition, because we're not talking a ground assault. We're not talking tanks and troops, not by any stretch of the imagination. This is not a ground war. There are standoff cruise missiles. There are F-35s. There are stealth fighters. Frankly, it looks like Israel just decimated Iran's capacity to respond in any real significant way. And even Israel is nowhere near talking about tanks and troops on their end. That's Gaza. That's in their backyard. That's a soft target. Iran's a hard target. It's heavily protected. It's farther away. It's difficult to penetrate. So it requires these more long-range tactical aerial weaponry. And when all is said and done, that's it. There's no ground troops involved here. There's no tanks. And it's all aerial. And Iran's not a nuclear power. I'm just going to be blunt. Iran is not a nuclear power. When you're not a nuclear power, there's only so much you can do. You cannot ever win the escalation war when you're a non-nuclear power and you're opposed to and retaliating against two nuclear powers. It's a lose. It makes the Democrats look victorious by comparison. We'll get to them in a moment, I promise. But this is all just baked into the cake. Iran can try to get other powers involved. So that's another option. They could try to get Russia involved in that. Fat chance. That's not happening. Russia and Iran have a very good relationship, but Trump and Putin are great powers, and they're not going to divide over this. They're not going to be able to drag China into this. No way on that one. And the other Middle Eastern nations, let's be blunt, like Saudi Arabia. They have a very tentative peace with Iran that was brokered by China, but they're hardly staunch allies. In fact, the two most controversial neighbors in the Middle East, number one, of course, by far is Israel. But what's the number two? As far as Saudi Arabia and, Qatar and others are concerned, it's Iran. So it looks like Iran's been relatively geopolitically isolated, and I just don't see any way how they can really muster a major counteroffensive to this. So at this point, I do not see this developing or escalating much more beyond what it is, a conflict between the two most controversial neighbors in the whole of the Middle East, that probably a lot of the Middle East countries would prefer them to knock each other out. But regardless, it's obviously not going to happen. But this is going to remain, as I see it, a conflict between Iran and Israel. It's going to be very hard to escalate. They can hit the United States, but the United States will just hit, targets, military targets in the region, but they're just going to hit back all the harder. And they're just, again, it's a mutually assured distraction. You're going to get crushed, and they can't win the escalation ladder with us. So it seems to me Israel has the clear upper hand, for right or for wrong. But again, we will keep an eye to see how things develop here.